Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com, as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Have you checked the children?
I want to play a game. The box. You opened it. We came.
Here.
This is the All-American Spookshow.
Oh, good Lord. There was only one proper way to start this movie, and that was with the classic by Living in a Box. Living in a Box. That's right. The fucking band is living in a box. Good Lord. This is the latest Cannon Fodder here on the All-American Spook Show, where the whole premise is we pick a movie from the Cannon Films library and we talk about it. So this week we're talking about Masters of the Universe from 1987. So there was only one way to approach this. You can't go with the Superman / Star Wars rip-off theme music from the movie. You have to go with Living in a Box. So
yeah.
There we go. So I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Donnie.
Dope.
And the Professor Smoke. Will couldn't be with us. He's on assignment, and man, he's missing a good one. But we're going to get his thoughts later on. We will get some of his input. He just couldn't be here for this recording session, so we'll leave it there for now. So I guess before we get deep into the movie itself, I'll go ahead and throw out that you can go to the all-new, just launched back literally on Halloween, aaspookshow.com, and that's where you can find everything that has anything to do with the Spook Show universe. All of our YouTube stuff, including Hammer Horror, in order. You have to hesitate, right? Remember, we've learned this well. Spook Show Rewinds. You've got Grindhouse Gutter, all that cool stuff over on YouTube. Patreon.com/aaspookshow, where you get every month a library of the Professor segment. You get Crapster Pete's Theater, which we just threw up a new poll here for the month of November for what we're going to be watching in December, and just know it's going to be one of the shittiest Christmas movies you can possibly imagine. That's what's going to be out on that poll. So go check out the socials. Go to aaspookshow.com. Go over to patreon.com/aaspookshow. Find all those things. I guess without any further build-up, I'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Masters of the Universe.
At the far end of the universe, there is a planet ruled by a being of utter evil. And there is only one man who dares challenge him. They are locked in a battle to the death. A battle that will take them across the heavens.
Stop him!
A battle that will finally be fought.
I want them hunted down and brought to me!
Across the face.
Police! Nobody move!
Of Earth.
I think I'm gonna need some backup.
Can you show us the way?
No!
Somebody help me!
From a distant galaxy, they have come to Earth. Dolph Lundgren as He-Man. Frank Langella as Skeletor. Only they have the powers to be Masters of the Universe. Live the adventure.
All right, so before we get into the deep dive, some of the information that we have and some of the usual information that we throw out on every movie that we watch, we'll go ahead and toss to I mean, who else is there any better to talk about this movie or any other Cannon movie than author of the Cannon Film Guide, Austin Trunick himself? So we'll go ahead and toss to him now.
Cannon Chronicles with Austin Trunick.
Hello, Austin Trunick, author of the Cannon Film Guide, here to talk about 1987's Masters of the Universe. Now, despite all of its appearances otherwise, this is actually not a movie that originated with Cannon. It was brought to them as a package that was already included the script, the director, and Dolph. Now, there are some fantastic YouTubers that can break down the history of the toys far better than I can, folks like Toy Galaxy and such, but Masters of the Universe was basically created by Mattel to get into that lucrative boys figure market in the early 80s. It was a direct competitor to things like Kenner's Star Wars line and Hasbro's G.I. Joe. Obviously, toys were a huge hit in the early 80s, the He-Man toys. There was the cartoon, there was comics and such, but Mattel kind of saw the writing on the wall, I think, and they knew this wasn't going to have the same staying power as the others if it didn't become a bigger pop culture phenomenon. So they started developing a live-action movie, and it was a couple of years before it got to Cannon. As the development time went on, they were beginning to watch their toy sales fall, and you have to figure that they were feeling more and more pressure as time went on, almost as if they needed this movie to be a hit so that they could save the brand. Ed Pressman came on as the executive producer for the project, and he was kind of the perfect man for the job. Not only was he from the Pressman family that founded and owned Pressman Toys, but he had just produced the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic Conan the Barbarian, which is kind of the perfect thing to have on your resume if you're going to make a movie about a space barbarian toy line. He brought on screenwriter David Odell, who was also a great get. Odell was a longtime Muppet Man and Jim Henson collaborator, and he had written and done most of the world building for The Dark Crystal. Now, Dolph Lundgren was cast during development as well. This was going to be his first big leading role. He had a teeny tiny part in A View to a Kill, and of course his breakout as Ivan Drago in Rocky, but that was a role where he barely spoke if you think back on it. Now, Masters of the Universe is the first true quote-unquote Dolph Lundgren movie. Personally, I don't think a human being has ever walked to this planet who was more physically perfect to play He-Man than mid-1980s Dolph Lundgren. I'm going to say something that and risk angering some of the old school MOTU fans, but I would argue that Dolph Lundgren is more He-Man than He-Man. Now, obviously, Mattel makes toys and not movies. They had to shop this idea around once they had the package put together. This was the mid-1980s, contrary to today, where a majority of our big movies are based on toys, comics, or cartoon properties. This was considered very unusual at that time. Most studio executives received their pitch, thought, you want how much to make a movie about action figures, and started laughing their asses off. The few who did not dismiss the idea entirely weren't about to hand over the amount of money for the movie that they would have needed to make sure it was done properly. Now, it came down to studios severely underbidding for the rights to make Masters of the Universe. Cannon bid a couple $1,000,000 more than the others, which was still only about 2/3 of what they wanted, and they probably needed to do the movie right. Now, so that's where Masters became a Cannon movie. Now, honestly, the biggest issue there was that Cannon essentially ran out of cash while the movie was shooting. It would take me hours to explain everything that went wrong for Cannon financially in 1986 and 1987, but it was very, very bad. That's all you need to know. They had to scale back their productions drastically. The last day of regular shooting on Masters of the Universe ended with a Cannon lackey actually pulling a literal plug on the movie when the clock struck midnight. They actually made the director, Gary Goddard, go out and pay out of his own pocket for some of the pickup shots that he needed to finish the film. Well, rating time. Rating. There are two ways we can look at this. If I were to rate this purely as a He-Man movie, honestly, I'd probably have to give it a 2 out of 5, and that's mostly for just how incredible Frank Langella is as Skeletor. God bless that guy. The material is not beneath him at all. He puts his all and everything into it and just gives this Shakespearean style performance. He's just so good in here. But if I think back to when I saw this as a kid, I remember being disappointed that it wasn't anything like the cartoon that I knew. Where's Orko? Where's Battle Cat? Why are we in suburban California? Those things bothered me, because to a kid in the 80s, I guess those were the things that made He-Man He-Man. As I've grown older and wiser, I've come to appreciate more and more elements of this movie. There's some fantastic design work. You've got Bill Stout and Mobius coming up with the costumes and sets. Skeletor's throne room looks absolutely amazing. The cast is great. And not just Dolph and Langella, but James Tolkien, Meg Foster, Billy Barty, everyone else. And honestly, it's impressive that this movie looks as good as it does, considering the time and the money they had to work with. I'm going to bump up my rating then to a 3.5 out of 5. As much as I've come to love and enjoy this movie and want to give it more, I'm always going to have this nagging sadness about what could have been. With another $6 to $8 million, well, I mean, we'd all love another $6 to $8 million more than we have, but this movie had $6 to $8 million more, and you kept all the same cast and crew in place. Just the only thing you changed was the amount of money that was put into it. I think this could have been an 80s fantasy classic rather than the infamous flop it turned out to be. This was just a case where the ideas were a lot. Let me take that. This was an idea where the ideas were a lot bigger than the resources they had to actually pull them off. And with that, fellas, I am out this time. Catch you all in a few weeks.
All right, so there you go. That is the rating and the thoughts and all the background information from Austin Trunick with his latest Cannon Chronicles. So lots of good information to take there. Saves us a few minutes of research and talking, right? Just letting him go. But we appreciate that again, Austin, and hope to get you next time on the next
man.
Cannon Fodder. So some of the background on this movie, it was also known as Masters of the Universe, the Motion Picture. That was the promotional title. And also He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That was the informal alternate title for the film. So I guess they just settled on Masters of the Universe. It was released August 7th, 1987 by the Cannon Group, also produced by them. Rated PG, total runtime of 1 hour, 46 minutes. On IMDb, it's listed as an action/adventure/fantasy. It was filmed in the Los Angeles area in some, various spots and studios there. From August 11th through November of 1986. So, I mean, for this kind of movie, that's, I guess that's a fair turnaround, wrap around November and then it comes out August of 87, but still, for a movie that needs as much post, I'm sure, as this one did, it's kind of a fast turnaround, but it's Cannon, right? Budget, $22 million, which is crazy for Cannon, as Austin was talking about there. Directed by Gary Goddard, who really didn't direct much else because this was his directorial debut and only did like some short films and stuff afterwards. But he was known as the writer of Tarzan the Ape Man from 1981, and he had worked on a few other things. This movie was written by David Odell, and I guess kind of uncredited rewrites by Stephen Tolkien and Gary Goddard. The cast, Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, like Austin was talking about. You would know him from what he was talking about. Rocky IV, that would have been his big hit-making moment, right? His big breakout on the scene right before this. And he went on to do a bunch of other things. I mean, he's still active today, but, these are probably the stuff from the late 80s, mid to late 80s to the early 90s would be most of the stuff that you're going to remember Dolph Lundgren for sure. This, I believe, this is the first time we've done a Dolph Lundgren movie. Probably won't be the last. Am I right in saying that? Like, I don't think we've ever had, done a movie.
We have not.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah.
No, this is the first.
Frank Langella as Skeletor, just like Austin said, and we'll get into his portrayal of Skeletor here shortly, but wow. He would best be known from Frost Nixon, Robot and Frank, The Box, The Trial of the Chicago 7. I mean, he's got over 100 acting credits on IMDb. A well-known actor, for the last 40, 50 years is Frank Langella. Frankly, it's kind of a big name for this type of movie, right? Like that you would get a guy like that, like a true, really good actor in a movie like this from Cannon.
Yeah, from what I was reading, his son was a big fan of the cartoon and the toys and all that, and he really he took the role because of his son.
Well, I mean, I'm glad he did it.
Yep. Yeah, he definitely.
As the movie turned out, I'm definitely glad he did it because I think he nailed it. Meg Foster as Evil Lynn, she would best be known from They Live, The Lords of Salem, 31. So she's done a handful of things with Rob Zombie. I mean, she's got over 124 acting credits to be precise over on IMDb, and she's still kicking around today. I mean, she's still making stuff. I mean, most recently The Accursed, Hellblazers. So once again, another recognizable face, and she's one of those kind of like people that sticks out because of her eyes being like crystal blue like that. Like you see her, man, like you remember the face for sure. Another cool casting bit, Billy Barty as Gwildor. Another interesting casting thing. He would best be known from Willow, Legend, Under the Rainbow. I think that was that. Wasn't that kind of like a half documentary type of movie of like talking about what happened to all the Munchkins and stuff in Wizard of Oz? Kind of a controversial kind of thing.
Yeah. I remember seeing it back in the 80s or something.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed away in December of 2000 at the age of 76, but long career. I mean, he had 213 acting credits over on IMDb. Tons of stuff. I mean, he's definitely a recognizable, interesting character. Beyond just the fact that he was a little person, right? Just beyond that, like his facial expressions and everything, he really was a good actor. Courtney Cox as Julie Winston in this movie. Now, this is before she broke out, obviously, with Scream and became and Friends and everything like that, and just became someone, a person or an actress that everyone knew.
Like household name.
Yeah. I think like this might even. Well, I guess this was after that bit where she had the small part in that Bruce Springsteen Dancing in the Dark video, right? This was after that, but still, like at this point, that'd be about all you would have known her from, right? Other than that, like, and maybe she was in the series Misfits of Science that ran back in the mid '80s. Maybe you remember her from that, but at this point, this was clearly like her first big acting role. And I believe, there was a movie that came out before this called Down Twisted that I guess would have been her feature film debut, best I can tell. But this was basically, I'm not going to say this made her a big star or anything like that, but this is one of her first big breakout roles. They got bigger a little bit later down the line, like with Cocoon: The Return, and she was in Family Ties and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, we need to do a Spook Show spotlight on actors in their first gigs, or maybe not necessarily first gigs, but these types of cult films that they are not known for that they did first.
Yeah, like not their breakout roles, like just like we did Jennifer Aniston and Leprechaun.
Yeah.
Leprechaun. Well, we haven't done this movie yet, but Demi Moore and Parasite. I don't know if either of y'all seen that, but
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Probably not one that she'd want to be known for being her first movie or one of her first movies.
Yeah, just like when we did The Burning, right? God, I'm blanking on his name. The guy from Seinfeld. What was it? Jason Alexander.
Yeah.
Jason Alexander, yeah.
With hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of the wise ass with hair. Like completely, not a complete departure from the kind of things that he did later on, but yeah, just his look, right? Being a lot younger with hair and everything. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of other people in the movie, but those are probably the main ones to point out. I mean, the guy that played Kevin Corrigan, that was Robert Duncan McNeil. I think he would best be known from Star Trek Voyager, a handful of years later. Otherwise, not a whole hell of a lot. I mean, he's got 30 acting credits on IMDb, and he is still active these days, but mostly that would probably be, if anything else you're going to remember him from, it'd be that. So, did you guys have anything else you wanted to point out before we dive in deep here?
You did mention Gary Goddard. This was his, which you've already mentioned. This was his first and only full-length feature film as director. He wouldn't direct anything else after this until 1996, when he directed the pre-show video to Jurassic Park: The Ride. So yeah, this. I mean, you don't want to say this ended his career, but he didn't do anything after this.
Not anything on this scale, for sure.
Certainly not anything major.
And I'm sure we'll get into it here shortly, but like a lot of the problems that this movie has, I wouldn't say you could directly pin on him. I mean, I think it's fine for what it is. It just,
it ends up being the director, though. Unfortunately, you know what I mean? You ever notice how that happens a lot? Like, even it could be any number of other shit going on in the movie. It's like, well, we got to pin this on somebody. So then the director ends up getting like blacklisted, so to speak, where he doesn't get those gigs as much for a while, or whatever, which is really shitty when it's not his fault,
I guess it's like another analogy would be like the quarterback of a football team. It's not always the quarterback's fault why they're successful, not always his fault, or he's not always the reason they win, but he's almost always going to take the fall, or say the coach, right? Whatever, but it's very similar. This movie actually did win a couple of awards. It won the Silver Scroll Award for Outstanding Achievement by Gary Goddard in 1988. And it was actually nominated for 2 Saturn Awards that year for Best Costumes and Best Special Effects. Did not win. And then it was nominated for Best Film in the International Fantasy Film Award of Fantasport in 1988, but it did not win. But it did win Best Special Effects that year at Fantasport. And it was also nominated for a Razzie, of course, for in 1988 for Worst Supporting Actor Billy Barty.
Oh, come on, man.
I mean, come on, dude.
That's a little stiff, I admit, but there you go. I guess it's unsurprising. I mean, he's no
though, but come on.
I mean, if you're ranking, if you're just looking at this movie and saying what was the worst performance, other than just some random dude in the background or something like that, I don't know. You might have to give it to him, because I think all the other ones are fine enough. They're playing the parts correctly, like Austin said, but. That one, that one, I think that one's just more for the over the topness of it all. That role, and everything, right?
Yeah, I used to work with a lady who, and God help her, she looked like and she talked exactly like Gwildor. But I mean, she'll never hear this. So Eva, yeah, I'm sorry, but
she looked like Gwildor.
Dude, I would love to find a picture.
Yeah, if only.
Good journey, man.
Shit.
See you later, Donnie.
It's time to refresh. For your convenience, we have an attractive refreshment stand with a parade of items to tempt your taste. Hot buttered popcorn, golden good and fresh from the popper. Your favorite candies, wholesome and rich and full of flavor. Ice cream and other good things to eat. Plus, ice-cold Coca-Cola. So bright, so bracing, with a taste and tingle all its own.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So like we do, slide on over to Audible, and I just typed in Masters of the Universe to see what would pop up, and we have the very first result. Masters of the Universe, Hayek, Friedman, and the Birth of Neoliberal Politics. What the hell? by Daniel Stedman Jones. That one's almost 16 hours of, I'm sure, of wall-to-wall fun. We also have He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I, Skeletor, the Tales of Eternia series, book 2. So apparently there's, there's the first one. It's called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, The Hunt for Moss Man. So these look like some of that more recent stuff that they've put on Netflix, the new Masters of the Universe series. There's tons of other stuff that may or may not have anything to do with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, like that first one about politics, whatever the hell that was. But yeah, if any of that stuff interests you, you can jump on over to Audible and by going to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audiobook. So now I hop on over to IMDb and I just click on plot summaries there to see what we got. And we got a few here. So Donnie, hold on to your hat, because here we go. We've got the simple one here. The heroic warrior He-Man battles against the evil Lord Skeletor and his armies of darkness for control of Castle Grayskull. Now we have 2 longer ones. This one's by Claudio Carvola over on IMDb. Here we go. On the planet Eternia, Skeletor and his dark army overthrow the sorceress of Castle Grayskull, expecting to acquire her power. He-Man, his old friend Duncan, Man-at-Arms, and his daughter Teela are attacked by Skeletor's soldiers and they defeat them. They also rescue their prisoner, the inventor and locksmith Gwildor. He explains that he was lured by Evil Lyn that used his invention, the Cosmic Key, to open the gates and seize the Castle Grayskull. He-Man and his friends retrieve the prototype of the Cosmic Key, trying to release the sorceress, but they are defeated by Skeletor and his army, and Gwildor uses his key to open a portal for them to flee. They come to Earth but lose the key. Meanwhile, Julie Winston, who grieves the loss of her parents in a plane crash, and her boyfriend Kevin Corrigan find and activate the key, believing it is a foreign musical instrument. On Eternia, Evil Lyn locates the Cosmic Key, and Skeletor sends her with a group of mercenaries and soldiers to vanquish He-Man and his friends and bring the key back. Will they succeed? And the one last one is kind of long like that one was. On the planet Eternia, the Dark Lord Skeletor has taken over Castle Grayskull, imprisoned the sorceress, and Skeletor has begun draining the sorceress's powers as he attempts to claim the powers of Grayskull and become master of the universe. Mighty warrior He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, and his companions, loyal soldier man-at-arms, his daughter Teela, and a dwarf inventor named Gwildor, finds themselves on Earth by Gwildor's creation, the Cosmic Key, a device that can open portals that lead to anywhere in the galaxy, which Skeletor requires in his goal for universal conquest. But when the Cosmic Key is discovered by Julie Winston and her boyfriend Kevin Corrigan, both unaware that Earth is about to become a battleground, as Skeletor and his vile minions arrives on Earth, as they go in pursuit of He-Man and his companions who are searching for the Cosmic Key, so they can return to Eternia and defeat Skeletor. Boo! Woo!
You okay?
That is a lot. I might need a stiff shot of whiskey after that. So where do we begin here? I mean, that pretty much sums it up, right? Like, they get sent to Earth by this Cosmic Key, and then they basically most of the movie is He-Man and the rest of them trying to find their way back to Eternia to take down Skeletor. So, like I mentioned before, like I'll just straight up start from the beginning with the theme. It's just straight up Superman, right? Right? Like that theme song is just like it sounds like they just moved a couple notes around, and it's the opening theme to Superman with a little touch of Star Wars in there.
Yeah,
much like Cosmic Key. The tones of Cosmic Key are basically 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't know, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right?
It's very similar, and Bill Conti actually composed the theme, and he's known for the Rocky franchise. He did 007 for Your Eyes Only, and he also did the Karate Kid franchise. So he can put some notes together instead of ripping off Superman.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad or anything. It's fine. It does what it needs to do.
It's just so similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, any one of those guys worth their salt, you'd think you'd want to go a little bit more original than that, But whatever. And it is canon, so they the fact that they spent money on it, and not just reuse something from another movie,
yeah,
is surprising enough.
Yeah.
Although they did do Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, around the same time.
Which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah.
Man, there's some great Superman flying effects in that movie, right?
Oh yeah.
All right.
It's about like He-Man flying around on that whatever the hell he was flying around.
Yeah, a little drone board. God, that was bad.
The hoverboard, whatever that was.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the effects for the time period aren't bad.
No, I think I made that note. Like, for canon, this been a canon movie, and for 1980, they made it in 86. The movie came out in 87. I think the look of everything holds up, and Austin kind of alluded that too. Like some of the set design and some of that stuff kind of holds up, right?
Yeah, and even Skeletor looks. I mean, he looks fairly solid. As far as the his look and shit. I mean, Frank Langella just nails that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, let's talk about him for a second. Like, dude, I mean, like Austin said, this is like a really good performance. Like, and the more I've seen it over the years, the more you sit there and watch it now with a more of an adult eye, so to speak, you're like, wow, this dude really, he bought in. Like, he could have just said, what the fuck is this? I'm just doing this because my kid likes these toys. Let's just get, I'll act kind of cornball and get through this thing. But now, like, he's acting his ass off, man. He really
poured himself into it, man.
Yeah. He really leaned in.
He even said it's one of his favorite roles. And that, I mean, probably because how important it was to his son, like y'all mentioned.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, after the fact, he said it's one of his favorite roles.
Well, I can see why. I'm sure it was fun, for a guy like that did, your general fare, maybe even like Shakespearean type of stuff, that kind of thing. Like, I'm sure it was a lot of fun to kind of slum it, so to speak, for him in this type of movie. But
you know what I remember him from the most as a kid was Dracula. I forget what year it was. Yeah. 1979 or 80 or somewhere in there, maybe.
I do remember that. Yeah,
somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I remembered him from. Like, if I don't remember him from any other movie, it's that one. Yeah. And that's just because of how many times it was on TV and I watched it back in the early 80s, I guess.
Well, you're about 15, 20 minutes into the movie. Well, I'd say give or take about 20 minutes into the movie where you finally hear it living in a box, right? Like, if you had the bingo card, the Masters of the Universe bingo card, or the Cannon Films bingo card out, it's when they went and got into Kevin's van, and then you hear living in a box, So.
It's funny how that song is taken off more than any other song in this movie and stuff, and it's barely. It's just playing in the background of his truck when he's talking in a scene, so it's barely even audible. It's there, not as loud as even Jimi Hendrix's "Purple Haze" that gets played in the music store or whatever it is, the store that they go into, right? Or the whatever that store is, pawn shop type thing, right?
Music store,
yeah.
The store, so. But that song has taken on a life of its own for cult movie fans and Cannon movie fans.
Speaking of cult stuff and just cult status, whatever, right? Someone that really sticks out. James Tolkien is Detective Lubick.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that dude right there, especially at this time, right, you would know him, I guess even today, you'd know him best from Back to the Future. But, like, even this one always stuck out to me.
He was that flight instructor or whatever, whatever guy. Stinger, I think his name was.
That was the one thing I was thinking about, though, when I was, watching him in this movie. And once again, he does a good job in it as well. But he always plays similar roles. You know what I mean? It's like we talked about with Dick Miller, where he's always just pretty much Dick Miller in every movie. Like, this guy's pretty much the same. Like, yeah, he's a principal in one movie, he's a cop in another, but it's always basically the same role, just wearing a different hat,
Yeah, just put on a different shirt.
But once again,
he's like, so James, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. He's like, nope, I'm just going to be James Tolkien. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you'll like it. You're right, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, going back a little bit, Skeletor, Mattel, like Austin mentioned, they produced the toys in the cartoon. Oh, I'm sorry, they produced the toys. Anyway, they basically said that He-Man could not kill anybody on screen, and that's why Skeletor's troops are essentially robots.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, like, for a movie that's geared towards kids and selling more toys, because let's be honest, like half of this movie, and Austin alluded to it, and I agree. It's why I was kind of disappointed with the movie when I was a kid, was that there were a lot of characters in there. Like you said, where's Orko? Where's Battle Cat? They didn't do any of the Prince Adam stuff where he turns into He-Man, so there's no Cringer to Battle Cat, none of that stuff.
No Ram Man, none of these characters that we're familiar with.
Even the bad guys.
Not even Stinkor.
Yeah.
Where's the skunk Stinkor?
Even like the bad guys, the only one other than Skeletor and Evil Lyn is Beastman. The other ones are just these made up ones like Blade and all these other
ones.
Like, yeah. And I remember as a kid, I'm like, where the fuck is Merman? Where's Trapjaw? Where's where are all these guys? But now we get
Ram Man.
We get Blade and you can't even say, well, it was a budget thing. No, you had a guy dressed in a lizard suit with a helmet, but you couldn't put fucking Merman in this. One of these major characters from the cartoon. Yeah. I just remember that being a big deal when I was a kid. But yeah, Orko's probably one of the biggest ones, and it's pretty clear. Yeah. And it's pretty clear they're like, no, that's going to cost too much. Fuck it. Billy Barty, do you mind dressing up like Gwildor? What's Gwildor? And then okay, here we go.
Yeah, because that. I mean, that's just his voice.
Yeah, he's not putting on airs. He's not putting on a cartoony voice. He's pretty much Billy Barty with a lot of prosthetics on his head.
Yes, and something about that the cosmic key. There was actually there were three. They made three different cosmic keys, and they were real fragile. They broke easily, but today each one of them is worth around $8,000.
So they still
$8,000.
They're still kicking around. They still exist.
Somewhere, probably a collector or somebody has them.
And they were impressive looking little things. Especially when they would turn it on. Obviously the lights and shit, right? Who cares? That's just CGI, but animated shit, whatever. But when the tuning forks or whatever, the keys themselves are turning on the top and everything. Like, it's a cool looking little, gizmo that they made for this for sure. So He-Man has the power sword throughout the movie, and he pretty much never uses it.
He uses it randomly. The thing is, he does use the sword, but it's never.
I think
at the very end.
He uses it a little at the beginning, maybe like pulls it out once while they're on Earth or something like that, and then he has the fight with Skeletor. That's it. And then there's finally the moment where, he has to throw down with Skeletor. I have the power, right? Then he said that, right? That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, He-Man's shooting a gun at robots.
I think the closest thing to the original Masters of the Universe is Skeletor's ram-headed staff.
Yeah.
Which pretty much looks like, and the sword, He-Man's power sword, but it wasn't, even the power sword wasn't identical, but it was close enough,
Yeah,
that's probably the two closest things in the movie to the series. I mean, because, everybody else looked different. They were trying to go for a more realistic Beast Man. They weren't going to have an orange furred.
Yeah.
Have it look like normal or whatever.
A lot of the things that they changed, I can understand why they changed them, and I can accept most of the change. It's just some of it's like for no reason to me. It's more like an art direction kind of thing. We're like, well, we don't quite like that. Let's make it look like this. That kind of thing. I
agree with you and with Austin though. As a kid when you watch this,
yeah,
disappointed with it. You were bound to be disappointed with it because of it not being hardly anything to do with the series. So
yeah.
And as time goes on, I also agree with Austin on that. You watch it with different eyes, as you get a little bit older.
Yeah,
give it a little bit more leeway.
Look, when I was a kid, I remember being disappointed because it wasn't like the cartoon that I loved and the toys that I loved. That being said, how much of this kind of shit did we have as kids? So even though it wasn't the greatest thing, you know what? You just learn to accept it and you just watch the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not getting another one, so let's just fucking love the hell out of this thing, even though it's not very good. And I'm only 7 and I know that.
Yeah.
But fuck it, it's the only one we're gonna get, so let's just enjoy
pretty
it.
Much.
Let's just.
And Pig Boy. Pig Boy. Pig Boy. The only reason he was there was he had won a contest to be in the movie.
Wow.
And they had ran out of time, and they were just like, "Yeah, here, be Pig Boy." they had to do something with him. But yeah.
Yeah. Well. At least they owned up to their end of the prize, I guess.
And this is the only thing he's ever done. Actually, I take that back. There was a 2017 documentary where he, did an interview. Mm-hmm. Other than that, this is all he's done.
So I made a note about the whole subplot about Julie's parents and everything. So really, in the end, it's really only there just so like Evil Lynn can come along and trick her. Because why is it there? Why do we care about Julie's parents dying in a plane crash and that being a thing?
Well, like at the very end where you mentioned the time travel,
yeah, and that's just thrown in. Like the whole movie, they never mention anything about the cosmic key being able to. All they talk about is it being able to take you basically from one place to another.
It's like a doorway or a gateway.
All of a sudden, as he's like programming it. Oh yeah, by the way, I can send you anywhere in time. What? Wait a minute.
When did this? Yeah, can you do something about this leg?
Yeah, you mean we could have just went back in time and defeated? Never. You never gave it to Evil Lynn, and then she never. You could have solved this a long time ago. You little motherfucker. But no, you made us play
the way.
Yeah, and the whole point of them being on Earth was just to cut back on the budget, right? Like,
yeah,
we can't afford to do a whole movie on Eternia. Let's take this shit to a backlot, in L.A. that's unspace-like and make it look like Earth. Oh, that's way cheaper. Yeah, let's do that. But yeah, that whole subplot just seems so forced. Like, oh yeah, Julie, by the way, her parents died in a horrible plane crash, and it's only ever brought back up again when Evil Lynn needs to trick her to get the cosmic key, and then, like you said, at the very end, when they're like...
The very end.
We can take you back in time. Wait a minute, what? I love that, though. But the whole look of Super Skeletor, right? Like, toward the end, when he almost wins. Like, yeah, I mean, like, it looks really cool, Like, I don't remember anything about that being, like, cartoon correct, comic book, whatever the hell, like the source material correct. But yeah, still, I think it all looked cool.
Oh, speaking of one thing though about Skeletor, the only thing about him that's kind of like what the hell is he's a skeleton, right? He's skull face, but he's got lips.
Well, it's very similar.
His teeth are back behind the mask, behind his mask back here. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, you're a skull. You're supposed to be on the outside, right?
You wouldn't think.
That's just nitpicky, but it's just like humorous.
And once again, it's an art direction kind of thing because you wouldn't think it would be that hard to recreate the look, like a skull face, right?
Yeah,
it wouldn't be that hard to.
The talking part would be difficult, I guess, to get it to, because you would have to see the teeth and it had to be a fake mouth of some sort.
Yeah, maybe
moving.
Maybe his face he can't emote as much with the teeth and everything, right? But still, it wouldn't have been hard to. I wouldn't think it would have been hard to recreate it, but it's the same as Gwildor, right? Like, there's plenty of scenes where they get up close on Gwildor, and you can see his fucking mouth inside the mouth. Yeah. Right? Like, you can see Billy Barty's mouth, like, in there, Yeah. I always like the part where he steals the bucket of chicken, and they're all, or I guess it's ribs or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
And they're all just sitting there like, why do they put all the meat on the bone? Like.
On the stick, yeah. Why they put all this
white stick? And he's the only one like, this used to be an animal, or man at arms.
Or how about when they first go through the portal and Gwildor is like communicating with the cow or trying to communicate with the cow?
That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Moo. Good journey.
Oh man!
So what do we think about the whole ending? Just all of a sudden, all right. Well, they beat Skeletor, knocked him down in a pit, and and then happily ever after, they send Julie and Kevin back, and of course, like I said, throw time travel in there. All of a sudden, now her parents are alive, everything's cool, and then at the very end, you get the post credits scene of I don't know if you guys watched to the very end. Skeletor pops back up. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Now that's the
Terminator ending.
I could be wrong. Obviously. I mean, I don't know everything about every movie ever made or anything like that, but this has got to be one of, if not the first movies that had like a cutscene at the end of it, right? That's not just some throwaway. Like it is a plot driven. Like this is there because they want to do a sequel kind of thing. Like it's the first time I ever remember seeing something like that.
Because I don't know if you would count. I mean, Ferris Bueller's Day Off just had the joke at the end where he's like, "What are you doing here? Leave!" With the robe, with the bathrobe, whatever. I mean, that wasn't a plot device, though. It wasn't like they were trying to set up another Ferris Bueller's another Day Off, or something. It was
This is the first one I remember like properly trying to set up a sequel. Like, oh shit, Skeletor's still alive, and they're going to do another one. I remember even when I was a kid, like, oh man, maybe that means they'll make another one and they'll do it better.
Little did you know that Cannon was like crumbling.
Yeah, well, it is. If you think about it, if you look back on it now, it is typical Cannon, right? Like counting their eggs before they hatch, so to speak. Or counting their chickens before they hatch.
They used to just do it in the pamphlets they'd hand it out at cons and all the film festivals, with all, here, we have a movie we're working on with this actor and that actor and this and boom. Now they're actually putting it in the movie.
Oh, yeah, now they're just like mailing it.
Going to be doing another one, even though they had no plans or no money or no nothing to do another movie.
Because it seems like
actually, they were. It was actually written. The sequel was written and cast, but they never filmed it.
Wow.
They built the. They were gonna make this sequel back to back with Spider-Man.
Well, if you look at the history if you look at the history of Cannon, and I'm sure Austin can go in deep, like it kind of started going to shit right here. Like this, this is where it started, really. Like between this and Superman 4 and a few other movies, like I think these are the ones that did Cannon in. To be honest with you, it's all downhill. It's all downhill from here.
So it wasn't going to be Dolph Lundgren in the sequel as He-Man. It was going to be Surfer Laird Hamilton. So.
I'd like to see that sequel movie. That'd be hilarious. That would have been hilarious.
I don't know if he's still alive, but I want to see them do it now. Like
he
him.
Is.
Okay, there you go.
He is still alive.
I want 2022 Laird Hamilton as He-Man.
Yep.
Two things we were cheated out of was a Masters of the Universe sequel by Cannon and a Spider-Man a Cannon film Spider-Man. Both of those I would like to see.
Yeah, I agree. And there's probably way more that we're not aware of, like on the level of Austin is, that like we would have been like, yeah, I'd love to see that. Because it was something he was talking about to us or something that was like, holy shit, when he described it, I'm like, I would have paid big money right now to make that happen. You know, I think it was when we talked to him, you know, when he was on the show with the interview the last time when we were talking about volume 2 of his book, and he was talking about something with Bronson or something that was supposed to be made. I don't remember what. You can go back and listen to that episode, but yeah, there we go. That's Masters of the Universe. I mean, there's really not much else to say. I mean, I think ultimately, you know, our ratings will reflect our current thoughts on it. Maybe not so much our thoughts, our 1987 thoughts, right? But our 2022 thoughts. So, Smoke, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, this was, well, we've already discussed how, you know, the movie kind of was when we were younger versus, you know, now. So, if you know, let's see, how old was I then? I guess it was about 13, I guess, when this came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, 13-year-old me would have rated this a lot lower at the very first time when I saw it. Again, though, like you said, it was cool to have it, but you were disappointed, you know, and it not looking like anything like the series. So, but yes, me now, haven't seen it enough times, I mean, plenty of times over the years.
Now, once again, I'll add that this is the Cannonball rating scale, so it is a little different than our normal, you know, for you listeners. It's it's skewed in the Cannon way. So just take that into account. Like if you hear us say a 5, you're gonna be like, what? You know, so that explains why. It's a little weird, but go ahead. Yeah, I think I'm pretty much in the same camp as Austin was describing this, and kind of with his rating as well. I still, as much as I like it and enjoy it, I don't put it in that upper echelon of Cannon films, of some of the ones we've done, such as Invasion USA or even 10 to Midnight or Missing in Action or whatnot. So, but it is up there. It's up there. You know, it's way above, say, you know, Hot Chili or something. Way above. Wow, good Lord.
But what isn't above Hot Chili?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like me eating a hot bowl of chili and taking a shit is rated higher than the movie Hot Chili.
Oh, God, I'll take a hot bowl of chili over watching Hot Chili any day of the week.
And I'll take the shits that I get from that hot chili more than.
That's fine.
All right.
Who knew we'd get hot chili back in here?
Well, every time it comes up, it's every time we talk about a Cannon movie, it's going to come up forever.
But yeah, this movie's got a lot going for it as far as the acting department. You know, Lundgren does fine as He-Man. I never had any qualms with that. You know, with Frank Langella as Skeletor, as we've mentioned, is phenomenal. Tolkien, is his name John Tolkien?
James Tolkien.
And, you know, it sounds like Tolkien, James Tolkien, but it's not Tolkien like the author. It's Tolkien, Tolkien. But he's James Tolkien is James Tolkien, like you said, in any movie. And that's just fine because he does a good job at playing James Tolkien.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go 3.5 as well, like with the same as Austin gave it, I believe. Well, and two, I'll mention this other thing: Meg Foster's connection to Rob Zombie. Austin mentioned a connection to Rob Zombie unintentionally, or at least I saw it that way. When he mentioned that Dolph Lundgren was more He-Man than He-Man, it made me think of more human than human.
Oh, nice.
More
nice.
He-Man
There needs to be a
He-Man
song. With all Masters Universe related lyrics rewritten, more human than human as more He-Man than He-Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, you know, much of the same, you know, has already been said. You know, with all of its flaws, it's still a fun movie, you know, and if it's on, I'm gonna watch it.
Probably.
You know,
I agree.
and you know, even if you're, let's say, you know, this comes on, or you know, you're completely new to the cartoon, the toys, completely new to it. If you sit down and you're, you know, kind of into this kind of 80s kind of cheesy movies like that, you're probably gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably gonna enjoy it. But you know, all of our favorite characters were missing, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's exactly what you alluded to. You know, it's like, well, this is it for what it is. This is it. So yeah, I'm gonna echo 3.5. It's not even on the Cannon scale.
All right, so I talked to Will about it off air, and since he couldn't be here with us, he went ahead and gave us his Cannonball rating, and he gave it 4. So going along with that and what everyone else has had to say, I think I'm going to agree. I'm going to go with 4. It's you know, it's as disappointing as disappointed as I was as a kid. You know, now I can understand the situation a little more. I understand the reasons why they did some of what they did now. So I appreciate it a little bit more. Now, that being said, I'm still looking forward to the day that we can finally get a good one. I mean, because even in the years after this one came out, it's been rumored in Hollywood for like the last 30 years that they're going to make another one. And supposedly it's coming. I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing, right? But one of these days, hopefully we get Masters of the Universe done the right way, and you get to see Battle Cat and Orko and all the other cool shit that you didn't get to see in this one, and hopefully. But, until then, you still got this movie, you've got all the cartoons, all the various versions of the cartoon. There's plenty of ways in the comic books and blah, blah, blah to enjoy He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. So you add all of our ratings up, including Austin with his 3.5 cannonballs, and we come up with 3.7 cannonballs on the old Cannon Fodder scale. So there you go. That's where we'll leave it. All right, so with all the ratings and whatnot out of the way, Donnie, I'll go ahead and toss it to you.
Cannon Connections.
All right, so typically on the cast and crew side, we have any cast connections from this episode, this movie, to past Spookshow episodes. But on the cast side, there's no connections. On the crew side, we do have several special effects crew members from Masters of the Universe that also worked on Reanimator, Critters, and April Fool's Day. So you can, if you want to check out those episodes in our Spookshow archives, you can go to aaspookshow.com and go to our archive section and check those up.
That would be the easiest way. And wherever you get your podcast, just look through all of the past episodes, and they should be there. So I guess that's it for this edition of Cannon Fodder as far as Masters of the Universe is concerned, but we'll go ahead and throw out a tease to what we're going to be watching next. And we're starting the holiday season with, it's our Thanksgiving episode, but it's not really directly a Thanksgiving movie. It's the day after Thanksgiving. We're going to be watching Black Friday from just last year, from 2021. The brief IMDb synopsis reads, a group of toy store employees must protect each other from a horde of parasite-infected shoppers. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I haven't watched it yet. Yeah. I'm looking for. I've been wanting to see it since last year, so I'm looking forward to it. So we'll dig into that next week, and then then we really start the holiday season in earnest after that. We got some big ones lined up. So we'll tell you more about that once we get into Black Friday and everything. So really, I guess that's as good a place to leave it as any. So for Will, Donnie, Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are from the All-American Spook Show, and we're living in a box. We'll see you next week for Black Friday.
Please replace the speaker on its rack when you're ready to leave. Failure to do so will damage both the speaker and your car. We'll be grateful, and so will the patrons who follow you.